Lesson 22, can Jesus give me life? We're going to look at a fairly long narrative, John chapter 11. Mary and Martha had a brother, Lazarus. He's really sick, like really sick. And they send messengers up north to go get Jesus. He's a couple days away. And they ask him to come to their home in Bethany, which was dangerous because that's only 2 miles outside of Jerusalem, and Jesus in Jerusalem is a wanted man. So at the risk of Jesus' arrest, they request that he heal their brother Lazarus. Jesus receives the request and just stays where he is for a couple days, purposely allowing Lazarus to die. So by the time he arrives, a couple days journey, it is now 4 days since he died. That's a big deal. The Jews believed that the spirit of the deceased could hover about for as long as 3 days. It was past the 3 days. There is no more spirit. There is no more possibility of resurrection, except that with Jesus there was. And we're going to watch as both Martha and Mary encounter Jesus. Martha first, she seems to be the older, we don't know for sure, but seems to be the more responsible. If you go back to Luke 10, she's the one serving at the table. And she comes to Jesus and says something that sparks a debate. Lord, had you been here, my brother would not have died. And then Jesus ask her, do you really believe in who I am? Do you think that I'm the Messiah? And Martha, of course, confesses. Verses 24 through 26 are this kind of discussion with Martha about her belief. And she finally summarizes it by saying, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day. And Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live. And everyone who lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? And of course, Martha says she does, and we all go, no, she believes her own version of it. But she doesn't believe Jesus' version or Jesus' reality. Isn't that just like us? We say we believe, but we believe what we believe. We don't always believe what Jesus is saying to us. Martha returns to the house, and Mary is still distraught, crying. And when she learns that Jesus was there, that Martha had just talked to Jesus, she gets up and bolts for the door. The other Jews who had come from Jerusalem, a large family, large relationships, apparently they were a big deal, and a lot of people had come in to express their condolences. Those people see Mary bolt out the door, and they follow her like, woman's lost her mind. She's like distraught. She goes to Jesus, and you know what she says? The exact phrase that Martha said. Lord, had you been here, my brother would not have died. I can only imagine that phrase had been bandied about for dozens of times over the last 4 days. What is fascinating to me is that Mary's statement and Martha's statement get two totally different responses. With Martha, it elicited a theological debate. With Mary, it's emotion. That when Jesus sees her weeping, he sees her tears, he sees the other people concerned for her, he's caught up in the moment. And that's when we get the shortest verse of the English Bible. John chapter 11, verse 35, Jesus wept. The word for weeping is not what most people use at funerals. That's the Greek word kleio. It's a clamorous, boisterous, loud wailing. No, Jesus is dekruo. It's a tear that shows up at the edge of your eye and slowly rolls down your cheek. He is moved by this. He's also frustrated by this. The phrase describing Jesus' emotions is like the snorting of a horse, that he just is agitated. At what? Death? Maybe. Unbelief? Maybe. The frustration that he's not yet died for our sins and risen from the grave? Maybe. We don't know what it is. We know Jesus in the face of death was deeply moved. And here's why that's so important for me. And maybe for you too. Jesus is going to meet you where you are. With the faith that you have, with the emotions that you have, with questions that you have, he will meet you where you are. He is Lord of all our emotions, of all our life experiences, of all our hopes and dreams. And this, as we have discussed before, is not a miracle, it is a sign, pointing ultimately to the resurrection of Jesus, which points ultimately to our resurrection on the last day. No matter how dark your days are, there's always this glimmer of hope in the resurrection at the end of time. So I want to ask you a question that Jesus asked Martha. Do you believe this?